Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, and Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Well, hey, good evening, everybody. Well, it's evening where I am. If you're on the West Coast, you still have daylight. But to all of you that are in the dark, as I am, good evening. My name is Bobbie J. McLaren, and I get to spend the next 30 minutes with you guys and tell you about a little bit about myself, but more about my books. I grew up in South Florida. I was born in the 50s. If you want to be exact, it was 1954. My father had come back from Korea after they had my sister, my older sister, was born in 1950. And it was like immediately after that my dad was called back into the Air Force for the Korean War or conflict, whichever you want to call it. And happy Veterans Day to all of you. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for the dedication and commitment that we have the freedom to do the things we do in our country. And some of you have given so much, and I am so grateful. But anyways, my dad had come back from the Korean War, and I guess they were just so excited that here come along me. And I'm just happy that it happened. Hey, it gave me a life. So, but anyways, growing up in the 50s in South Florida was an absolute joy. It was like growing up in a jungle sometimes, a wilderness. We were on the Intracoastal Waterway. I thoroughly enjoyed my life there. I do only have the one sibling. She is 4 years older than I am. We were not close as friends. We were close, but we were not close as friends when we were younger. We were more rivals than anything. She resented the fact that I was the baby, and she felt that I was spoiled. I resented the fact that she was older and that she seemed to get things that I didn't get because she was older. And as my parents described it, she needed those things. I didn't think she needed them. I think I needed them just as much as she did. But, you can't argue with your parent. Well, you can, but it's not productive. So anyways, but the book that I wrote has to do with and it is true stories of growing up on the Intracoastal Waterway in South Florida in Palm Beach County. And my dad was firstborn American. His father and mother came over from, his father came from Scotland because he married an Irish woman. Oh my gosh, it was scandalous. Well, anyways, they had to leave Scotland just simply because it was just not good relations with their families over there. So they moved actually to Canada. My grandfather and grandmother had 8 children in Canada, and because of the business that he had started, it had affected his breathing, and so it was a vinegar factory. And so his doctors told him, "You need to move south." So they moved to Florida. Came in through Bismarck, I guess that's North Dakota, yes. Anyways, and so my father and his twin sister were born in 1917 in South Florida. So my sister and I are only second generation American. So proud of being an American. And the book is about my age, about 4 to 4.5 to about 8 years old. So that would make my sister 8 to 12. And of course, we didn't have many neighbors. Our neighbors were as close. It's nothing like in cities. It's nothing like in developments where you have these wonderful little clusters and the little houses. You know, sometimes you could almost reach out and borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbor because they're just about that close. We didn't have that, you know, but all of our neighbors knew us, and it was enough that back in those days, you know, you can't spank your kids today because it's considered almost abuse. But if I was acting out in somebody's yard, they would come out and spank me, send me home, call my mother, which at that time we had party lines, so you had to listen to the certain ring, and tell my mom or my dad that I or Sherry were acting out in their yard, and that they spanked us and sent us home. And of course, we'd get spanked again when we got home. When I say spankings, I'm not talking about beatings. I'm talking about a spanking. You know, you were bad, slap on the butt. And actually, I enjoyed the slap on the butt a whole lot better than I did when they started grounding me. When you get grounded and you can't go outside, it was not good. We didn't have video games. We didn't have the DVDs, VCRs were not invented at that time. Good Lord, it wasn't even until the late 70s that microwaves were suddenly available. We grew up with black and white TV, and of course, they all came in big consoles. So, anyways, the the times were just different, and the book came about because my sister and my best friend, we would sit around and talk about these crazy things that went on when we were younger. And they were like, you know what? Somebody needs to write this stuff down, because if you don't write it down, one day it's going to be gone. And when I'm gone, nobody will remember it. Or when she's gone, my sister now is 71. Which makes me 64 if you want to, I mean, 67 if you want to do the 4-year math. Anyways, but it brings about the thing again where my dad had always said that unless you're famous or infamous, infamous meaning that you were a criminal or you were like Hitler or somewhere where you were a diabolical person, not always diabolical, but infamous as famous, that 100 years from now, nobody would remember you. You know, we have people go all the way back to people remember Noah. They remember Genghis Khan. You know, they remember Constantine. They remember Julius Caesar and all the different ones that have been through history because of what they did. But you and me, we're just everyday people living everyday lives. But those everyday lives are so full of stories in life that sometimes we miss out on it. And that's one of the things I've actually been working on, starting a Facebook page called The Sounds of Life to go along with my other, to where I want to start blogging on it, because I think sometimes we miss out on the simple things, and we miss out on enjoying. We get so wrapped up in I've heard people say, we get so involved with making a living that we lose out on making a life. And that doesn't need to be. We need to enjoy every moment of every day. And yeah, there's a lot of awful, crappy stuff that happens, but somehow, according to what God says in the Bible, that all things work out to the good of those who are called according to his purpose, and he works those things out. We may not like the way it's going. I'm been known to give suggestions to God. He doesn't always take them. Okay, he never takes my suggestions, but they get him anyway. So, but in the Sounds at River's Edge, it starts out with, and you see the water and everything. It starts out, the very first story is about me seeing Bugs Bunny. Saturday mornings, we had cartoons called Looney Tunes. They still have, and some of the other channels that you can live stream and that on the different satellites and things. But Boomerang and some of the others, they do the Looney Tunes that has Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and Yosemite Sam and all the different ones, Yogi Bear. But I would get up every Saturday morning early when everybody else was still sleeping and drag my quilt into the living room where our TV was. And I would lay down and on the floor and I would watch the Looney Tunes. And they were wonderful. I mean, how many different ways can Wile E. Coyote die? Well, actually, he never really died. But how many ways could he be blown up, smashed, run over, shot out of cannons and everything else, and yet still be there the next moment to be chasing the Roadrunner? It's like our minds at that time, you don't understand that. You don't even care because it's simple entertainment about a Wile E. Coyote chasing a Roadrunner, a bird, which is a natural thing. Tom and Jerry, the cat chasing the mouse and the mouse outwitting the cat. Those are normal things. You don't think about those things when you're little. We get to be older and we have to logically rationalize everything. When the leaves begin to fall off the trees, I'm surprised we don't try to figure out exactly, we try to rationalize. We do actually, scientifically, they figured it all out. But have you ever been out? Now, here it is November. I live in Fort Payne, Alabama now, no longer in Florida. Fort Payne, Alabama, and there is leaves changing all around me. I live out on top of Lookout Mountain. It starts up in Georgia and Chattanooga. You got Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then you've got Ringgold, Georgia, and Fort Oglethorpe. And there's Lookout Mountain, and it goes all the way into Gadsden, Alabama. Well, I live out on the mountain near the deepest canyon east of the Mississippi called Little River Canyon. Beautiful. The leaves are changing, which I never saw leaves change when I lived in South Florida. Never. It is such a thrill to be able to sit outside when it's not really cold and listen to the leaves when the wind comes and hear them going, down like that. It's stunning. Anyways, so here's the thing. I get up and I'm watching the Looney Tunes, and all of a sudden, we're talking Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. Elmer Fudd with his gun, and he's always running around with that silly rabbit, and he's going along, and Bugs is running like a crazy thing. And if anybody's ever seen a rabbit run, they can run fast. He's the only one I've ever seen though that runs on two legs. But hey, it's Looney Tunes. So he's running along, and he gets to a cliff. Oh my gosh, what do you do on a cliff? Bugs Bunny, he reaches behind his back, pulls out an umbrella, and goes, poof, and the thing just opens right up. He turns around, he sees Elmer, and then all of a sudden he just steps off the cliff and he floats to the bottom. Oh my God, this guy's floating with an umbrella. Well, in my 4.5-year mind, I'm thinking, that is just too much. I've got to do that. And that's exactly what I did. I went and got my mom's brand new umbrella. It was lovely. It was like a chocolate brown, had gold on the handles, and it was the old kind that had like the cane where it crooks up like that, and it had that beautiful gold up on the top, and it had brass, and I mean, it was just lovely. And so I checked the house. Nobody was awake. So I snuck out our front door. Well, we had a patio out in the front, and we were surrounded by live oak trees. Well, this one live oak was really old, and it had these limbs way, way down. And I climbed up on that limb, horsey style, and straddled it, holding the umbrella under my arm, and little by little I went over to where the garage met the tree, or the tree met the garage. However, anyways, they connected, and jumped down from the tree onto the garage roof with my umbrella, and I walked over the edge. I remember going over to the edge and looking, and then I glanced over to see if my parents were up. No, I didn't see anybody. So I was like, man, this is gonna be great. Man, I struggled. I got that umbrella open and I put it up in the air, and then I stepped off the garage. And I don't know how many seconds or milliseconds it took me to hit the ground, but all I know is that when I actually realized what had happened, the umbrella was somehow now under me. I was in our croton hedge, and I saw feet, and there was my dad. I looked up, and my dad was right there. And he reached down and he picked me up out of the hedge, and he checked me out, and then he started laughing. And I was all upset. First I was upset because he found me. Then I was upset, like, is he going to be mad? Then when he started laughing, it's like I was like, oh, just take that deep breath. And I was like, but Daddy, what about Mama's umbrella? And he was like, well, you know what? We'll get her a new one. We'll hide this. She wasn't even. My dad was so understanding. Yeah, Warner Brothers. I love it. Yeah, that's all, folks. Hey, Fairgore. Let's see. Tasmanian. Yeah, I love the Tasmanian Devil too. I actually have a friend that she says she looks like the Tasmanian Devil because she's kind of built up like this. Now she says she looks more like SpongeBob. I don't know. I don't think she looks like either one. But she's a heck of a lot of fun. My book, Howard, is about they're true stories, and each chapter, a lot of people, they'll buy a book and they're like, man, I don't want to start it because if I start it and then I get into it, I'm really interested, I'm going to have to finish it, which I do that myself sometimes. But my book is every chapter is an individual story. So you get through with the first chapter, you're done. And every chapter, somehow, I bring in the relationship between, of course, me and my dad, who was my very best friend. And again, he being an American vet, he was in World War II and Korea. And he was probably the most understanding individual I've ever known. He was the exact opposite of my mother. My mother was, if there was a spider this big, by the time she got telling the story, it was the size of a football. Where my dad was like, if it was the size of a football, what the heck, just get a shoe and kill it, So he was just so laid back, so understanding. I've only got one real spanking from my dad, and that story is also in the book. It's called The Burning Bed. And no, my parents were not in it, and it was accidental, but I don't want to give away too much in the beginning. But anyways, it's true stories about growing up in Florida, Howard, and it's about the things that the relationship between me and my sister and us with our dad and other people. It's like we had a neighbor, he wasn't too far off, and every now and then when I would hear him out cutting the hedge, and God forgive me for being so crazy when I was young, I'm probably still crazy now, I just don't know it. Anyways, I would sneak over in the hedge he was cutting, which was between our houses, and I would bite him on the ankle like a dog. What's with that? Well, anyways, just crazy things that we would do. There's just a lot of fun. But yeah, I love that somebody said Happy Veterans Day to all that have served. Oh my God, what benefits we have. You can go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. If it hadn't been for those men, we wouldn't even have the country we have. So anyways, but that's their stories that, like I said, from 4.5 until about 8, maybe 8.5. I'm working on more sounds at River's Edge, which goes on a little bit further with more crazy stuff. Sometimes it amazes me, the things that we did when we were young. I didn't have a lot of kids my age, so I would trail around behind my sister, and her her best friend, who was also our cousin, but they were the same age. And Shirley, our cousin, only lived like a house and a half. Well, a house and a half away would be pretty much about several acres or so away. Because, like I said, back then we grew up in South Florida where it was very natural, very wooded. Some of the stories I talk about the fact that I would go out sometimes in the evening with my dad, and we'd sit above the seawall and lean against one of the Australian pine trees, big old pine tree. And he would teach me about the stars and stuff, but he would always say, now listen, now listen. And if it was the season for the alligators to be breeding, you could hear the water where when the male alligator does that, they do something with their backs and the water sprinkles up, and you could hear it across the intercoastal from us in this little, it's kind of like a little cove that was right across the street there near Captain Mullen's house. I say Captain Mullen's. He actually was a captain, and he worked on large equipment and stuff like tugboats and things, just like my uncle did. And then there were other times that we would go out and you could hear the bobcats, they'd be just or you could hear the owls, and you could hear the different things in the evening, the night sounds, the frogs. There's certain times of the year you could hear the frogs. And of course, there was always my sister's favorite time of the year when the land crabs would come up out of their hideouts because of the high tides. Now, the high tides only happen in usually April and October. And those were also the times where we would have, our parents would tell us, doesn't matter what the weather is, you do not swim in April or October. My dad would tell us about the horrible rip tides, which, of course, when you're young, even though I look back and I think how smart my parents were, we would often think when they would tell us stuff that our parents were as dumb as a rock. Then you find out later that, oh my gosh, they were really smart. But of course, my cousin and I went swimming in October one time and got caught in the rip current. And it took us 30 minutes to get not even 50 feet from in the ocean to the shore, because at that time I didn't know you're supposed to swim sideways. We decided we were going to fight all the way up straight in. Don't do that. But in April and October, when the riptides and the currents are high because of the things going on, the land crabs in Florida come up out of their hideouts and they invade your houses. I mean, the garages, if you have sheds, anywhere that they can get. If you left your front door open, trust me, they'd find your way in. But in our concrete garage on the floor, you could hear them going, and it would drive my sister. She would go screaming into the house without even seeing it. But those are stories. The stories of fiddler crabs being hidden places, how and where we would just do the crazy things. But like I said, I'm working now on more sounds at River's Edge. Oh, and let me get it. There we go. This, can you see it? Oh, let's go the other way. There we go. This is my next new book, the first annual Duck Springs Whistling Contest. See the little fella? Yeah. Well, that is Tyler James, and Reader's Magnet is publishing it for me. They're doing an outstanding job. The coloring, everything in it is really good. They were so generous to me in the fact that I was able to contribute some of the illustrations and the other things that I tried doing where a mother was hugging their child. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it looked like kind of looked like some kind of a monster that had come up out of the sea, and I'm like, okay, I can't do that. They did a great job. So let's see. Fairgore, what advice can you give people who are dealing with nostalgia? Hey, man, if it's good, live it again. Talk about it. Share your stories with people. I had started earlier in telling you guys that I'm working on a page on Facebook called The Sounds of Life. And that's where I want everybody to begin to understand that your life right where you are, there's sounds. Everybody's life has a story. Everybody's. We all have stories to share. Some stories are not happy. Some stories, I mean, I've got some sad things and some horrible stories in my life that you would think should be just forgotten. Um, oh, sorry, hit the computer. Anyways, but the stories that you go through, the things that you live through, that's why I like the sounds of life, is because those are the things that make you who you are today. Now, I didn't like myself much when I was a kid because I figured I wasn't worth a whole lot. My sister didn't want to play with me. My cousin didn't want to play with me. I was kind of like a lone duck there, just kind of trying to find my way along. And so they did whatever they could to try to make me to go home, but I didn't want to go home and be by myself. I wanted to play and spend time with them too. Well, you know what? That was not necessarily the best things for me, but I got some really good stories out of it. And because they didn't like me to be with them, I figured that maybe, you know what? Maybe other people don't like me either. So I got a really bad um, case of inferiority, if you want to say. And it took me a long time. And then something had happened when, right before my birthday, and I'm actually working on a book for that too, of healing after sexual abuse. But I was sexually abused right before my fifth birthday. And after that, not only did I feel like nobody wanted me, but I knew I was damaged. I'm like, man, I'm a damaged individual. So in my mind, I was messed up. But all that I went through, because I refused to give up. And now I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to remember is that don't give up. You're worth something. Whether you think that you're not, you are. If you feel that you have nothing in you, that's a lie. Every single one of us have some kind of a talent to be able to share with others. And even if that talent is nothing more than listening to somebody else's story when they're hurting, that's one of the greatest gifts you can do. If you can be there for somebody else, and that's important. So, anyways, actually, I'm supposed to be wrapping up here because I'm only on tonight for 30 minutes. I will be on tomorrow for my full author of the hour. And anyways, for my full author of the hour, and I'm excited. It's going to be at 12:30 Eastern time. I hope you guys come and see it. Readers Magnet is doing a phenomenal job with the Festival of Storytellers. And I just want you guys to know that if you have a story, don't let it go. Even if you just write one page a day, hey, it's something. Even if it was one sentence, if you have poems or songs or anything in you, there are people out there that would love to share it with you. I mean, I was listening to several of the other authors today, and each one of them has so many different things that they can share. So many things. So, what I want to tell you is this: when you have like things in your life that you don't always know, hey man, what do I do with this? Write it down. I've journaled since I was a kid. I even write my dreams down sometimes if I think they're significant. But don't give up. You keep on pressing, because you know what? You may have not met that person out there right now that appreciates what you are, but there are people that will appreciate you. And I thank you for listening to me. I thank you for being out there. And thank you so much, guys. I look forward to seeing a bunch of you tomorrow. I hope you come in, and feel free to ask me any questions. You're welcome, Wayne, and you're welcome, Fairgore. Wow, 12451, man, that's an awesome number. Cool. Anyways, I've got to give my time up, so I think that somebody else can go on because I know there's other people that are going. So I am going to let this go, and I'm going to ask you guys Support your people. Support your local authors. Support the ones that are around you that are writers. Encourage them. But more than anything, encourage yourself, because those stories that are in you, somebody wants to hear them. Okay? All right, guys, I got to go. I appreciate you all. I'm not in the show. Leave the studio. Hello. And that's all she wrote.